Today, we're proving that anyone can achieve huge success by taking on 6 practical steps in the pursuit of one irrefutable law of achievement. It's called the law of compound gains, the act of consistently performing small, seemingly insignificant actions in order to attain massive results. So without any more f***ing around, let's dive straight into the first practical step to applying it. If you improve by 1% every day for a year, you won't improve linearly and end up 365% better, but instead you will become 3,778% better at that skill, which is nearly 38 times better than where you started. The not so good news is that if you repeat a bad habit and get 1% worse every day for a year, you will degenerate into something like 1/40th of your original level, bringing you close to zero in that regard. See, for the first 5 or 6 months of incremental progress, you will likely see no change. We call this the pit of sorrow because it's where most people give up. They give it a good crack for a couple of weeks or even a few months, but after a while it just seems like nothing that they do matters, and it's really f***ing discouraging. But this is how you know you're close to the next phase, which is what we call the victory run. The exponential part of your progress happens here. This is the point where all of the skills that you've learned and all of the resources you've gathered and even all the habits that you've formed start to synergize and produce tangible progress towards your goals. Seemingly overnight, you will soar to new heights. It will seem totally surreal. This happened to me when I first built my dream physique, when my first successful business took off, when I bought the car that I've always wanted. See, all of the habits that I formed and the literal thousands of hours of thankless work seemed f***ing pointless until the victory run, and then everything that I was working for became a reality. The completion of these small, seemingly insignificant positive actions over time compounds into massive rewards. But where do you even start? You start by dismantling your goal and conquering it in tiny, bite-sized pieces. When you set out to tackle a massive goal, the last thing you want to be doing is attacking the end result straight away. It'll be f***ing impossible at this stage anyway, because you're useless. Instead, ask yourself how the end goal is achieved and then break down the method you've identified into as many small steps as possible. Things that you can do in like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. For example, if you're in school looking to get straight A+, you need to first learn how to get an A+ in just one subject. To get an A+ in one subject, you need to learn how to get an A+ in all of your assessment tasks. To get an A+ in all of your assessment tasks, you need to learn the skills and the content required to then achieve it. They even give you an exact description in the syllabus of how you're marked. So pick up the assessment criteria and read them. Then ask your teacher how to get really good at nailing each of these criteria. Search on YouTube if you want for the content that teaches you the skills that you need. Set aside time to work on these skills. Now work your way back up the hierarchy and apply this to all of your subjects. Congratulations, you've broken down a huge goal into tiny bite-sized steps that you can take action on every single day if you so please. This is actually applicable to every facet of life. You won't be successful immediately, but developing the habit of doing these small activities regularly will give you the all-powerful compounding 1% to make you 38 times better at these things. If you slack off and fail to motivate yourself to do all these small tasks, you literally never achieve the results you're looking for, which brings us to our next point. Habits versus motivation. So motivation is like that one chaotic friend who only ever shows up horrendously late to anything, if at all. But when they do show up, they're the absolute life of the party. In my opinion, motivation is actually quite cheap to produce. All it takes to motivate me, for example, is watching a video of
"We're all gonna fucking make it, bro, that's it."
Hell, some of you idiots get motivated by that cringe Sigma male shit on TikTok with all that fucking track in the background that grow up, you little shit. Motivation will give you a nudge, but you get what you pay for. See, it depletes as easily as it was acquired in the first place, making it literally the least reliable source of progress and consequently something that you should never rely upon. Habits, on the other hand, are like that one ride or die brother who's always there for you no matter what. Seeing them all the time, yes, inherently makes their presence a little bit less exciting, but you know that they'll never fail to show up even when you're not at your best. In order to start creating deliberate habits, you first need to understand how they work. You see, attention is a finite resource. Diverting your attention to solving basic recurring problems takes up a valuable brain power that can be used solving larger, more important problems like figuring out how to get shredded as f***. To solve this dilemma, your brain recognizes reliable solutions to recurring problems and imprints them on your subconscious. For example, if you're bored, you check your phone, you scroll social media. When you're hungry, you go to the fridge and you eat. When the room's dark, you go to the light switch and you flip it on. Your phone's always in your pocket, the food's usually in the fridge, and the light switch is always on the wall, making these all low effort, high reward, reliable solutions to recurring problems. The key then is to forming deliberate habits in manipulating this psychological phenomenon. When forming a habit, your brain runs through a cycle of sorts: stimulus, urge, response, and result. A stimulus can be anything: a place, a person, a time of day, a smell, sound, a taste, a mental state, a whole environment, virtually any internal or external trigger. This stimulus triggers the urge to respond to it. You then respond by performing the lowest cost, highest reward solution available to you at the time. If you successfully satisfy the urge by using that solution that is also reliable, you form a habit. Removing any of the first 3 steps of the cycle and the habit won't even form in the first place. But if you remove the last step, the habit won't repeat. If you want to form a habit deliberately, you must perform each of these steps in the cycle and repeat them regularly. Stimulus, urge, response, and result. Imagine you'd like to create the habit of studying every night for a couple of hours. Creating a stimulus is easy. It can be something as simple as setting up a study lamp and then only turning that lamp on when you're there to study. Through something called Pavlovian conditioning, you will eventually associate the act of turning on the lamp with the feeling of progress, which will give you the urge to study. This kind of conditioning was discovered in the 1890s by a dude called Ivan Pavlov, who basically locked his dog in a room and rang a bell every time he gave the dog food. After a few occurrences of this, Pavlov discovered that the dog would actually salivate whenever he rang the bell, regardless of whether or not he actually brought out the food. The dog started to associate the bell with satiating his hunger. The same can be achieved with basic stimuli in our own lives, like the study lamp. When you respond to the lamp by studying, you will eventually be conditioned to feel the reward of progress and fulfillment in your work, thus satisfying your urge and completing that cycle. I get it though, there's still plenty of room for you to f this up. I mean, you've probably failed at all of the habits you've tried to form so far, but don't worry bro. Fact Fox got your back, because next we're talking about how to prevent failure by establishing preemptive systems. Let me tell you a secret. The easiest way to stay on top of habits is by premeditating solutions to all of your points of weakness. Like a fucking psychopath. When was the last time you sat down and analyzed your weaknesses and devised solutions to them? Well, I do it. I'm the psychopath, and I'm here to help. Here are some of the best solutions that I've come up with to all the things that cause me to shit the bed. First, I'd recommend habit tracking. There are apps for this, but I use a whiteboard personally. Say you have 5 new habits you're trying to form. Draw like a 5x7 grid and label your days along the top and then your habits along the side. And then underneath, you write a sentence pre-committing to performing all of the habits. Give them a time and a place. Like every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I will work out at the gym at 6 p.m. Whatever the habits are, write them down. Then at the end of every day, put a tick or a cross on the grid next to each of the habits that you did or didn't do. This is an excellent way to gauge how disciplined you've been and to guilt yourself into doing better in the future. If you want to take this to the next level, you can add up all of your ticks and crosses at the end of the week and calculate your success rate as a percentage and then plot it on a graph as the weeks go by. What you're doing here is creating a system that helps you to hold yourself accountable to your commitments and encourages you to stay consistent with your habits. The other system that I use the absolute shit out of is calorie and workout tracking. So if any of your goals are health and fitness related, use apps to track your calories and your workouts to ensure that you're A, going to the gym regularly and eating your meal prep, and B, that you're actually progressing in your lifts every week and eating the correct macronutrient and calorie intake to reach your fitness goals. I recommend using MyFitnessPal for tracking meals and Strong for tracking workouts. Speaking of meal prepping is actually by far the best way to ensure that you're eating the right foods and achieving your body goals. If you're trying to lose weight or gain muscle, the act of pre-cooking and portioning your week's meals makes eating the right thing easier, literally, and more convenient than binging. It also saves you a shitload of time and money and fits perfectly into that psychological habit cycle of stimulus, urge, response, and result that we were speaking about earlier. Also guys, if you want to fast track your weight loss and muscle gains without paying a personal trainer or a fucking diet coach, I actually compiled literally 10 years worth of diet research and distilled it down into an easy to understand, unique diet system called Diet Dogma. It instructs you on exactly how to calculate what to eat to achieve virtually any body goal. And I've used this system to transform my body over the years, and since it's all based on well-established, unchanging science, the system has always and will always work. It's literally a cheat code to achieving the body of your dreams for the rest of your life. I mean, if that sounds like something that you want, there's a link in the description below. It's called Diet Dogma. Check it out. So, by adopting systems like Diet Dogma, you've preemptively solved problems before before they arise, consequently making it far harder to fuck up and far easier to adopt habits conducive to your goals. Implementation intention. So getting habits started is probably one of the hardest parts of the journey. Fortunately for you, they've done studies on how to make this as easy as possible, given that you actually do intend to achieve the results. A standout study for me was one where they took 3 groups of people who wanted to get healthier through exercise. The first group was the control group. They literally just told them to go on and do some exercise over some arbitrary number of weeks. The second group was shown motivational videos throughout the course of the study, and then were told to go forth and exercise. The final group were told to write down a time, a date, and a place where they intended to exercise within. Like at 2 p.m. every Monday and Wednesday, I will go to my local gym and run on the treadmill for like 20 minutes or something. They were also instructed to then come back and read that statement every morning. So how did they go? Out of the first group, 38% actually exercised in the first week. The motivation group somehow did worse, netting a whopping 35% participation. Of the group that actually wrote down their intentions, 91% of them successfully followed through and performed their allotted exercise sessions. This is called implementation intention and is an extremely well documented phenomenon. Literally hundreds of studies have been done to prove that this actually works, so if you're struggling to get started on a new habit, this can likely be the best thing that you can do. It is worth mentioning though that another study points out that for this to work, you need genuine interest. If you're not interested, writing down the intentions that you don't actually believe is unlikely to change your behavior. However, if you genuinely want to achieve your goal, then there's a high chance that this technique will improve your follow-through rate. Meeting zone. I'm going to tell you about 3 real people that I know. We won't use their real names, so we'll call them Ashley, Bob, and Chadley. So Ashley is an extremely smart girl. She enjoys complex problems, but isn't sure what field to get into. For the moment, she works in night fill, stacking shelves at her local supermarket to pay the bills, and she hates every waking moment. Bob, on the other hand, has a prestigious job as a cybersecurity expert, a senior cybersecurity expert, even though he only has about a year of experience. The company needed to fill a role, and they didn't have time to recruit a new senior expert, so they just promoted Bob despite his inexperience. Bob constantly lives in a state of terror that he's going to screw something up, and he's always falling behind deadlines and has zero clue how to manage his team, so they constantly undermine him. Third is Chadley. Having worked in construction under a mentor for a number of years, Chadley decided to go his own way and use what he'd learned to start a business of his own. It's hard work and he's new to the whole business thing, but it's nothing that he can't handle. He's confident and he's good at what he does, but he also gets to enjoy the challenge of consistently solving problems right at the brink of his capabilities. He's currently loving life and his business just continues to grow steadily, and he feels a sense of passion and accomplishment every day. So, what can we learn from these 3 people? If your competence far exceeds the challenge, you'll be so bored that you will feel like you're wasting your entire life, just like Ashley. We call this the nihilism zone. Just above the nihilism zone, there's your comfort zone, where you probably spend most of your time hanging out and chilling. On the opposite end of the spectrum, if the challenge far exceeds your ability to deal with it, you'll be so overwhelmed to the point where you'll likely have a meltdown like Bob. So Bob exists between what we call the stress zone and the aptly named meltdown zone. However, when your competence is being pushed slightly beyond its current capacity, it compels growth, passion, and meaning in your work. You'll feel like you're doing what you were created to do, like you're the perfect tool for the job, just like Chadley. See, Chadley lives in the tiny golden sliver that exists between the comfort zone and the stress zone, called the zone of meaning. You'll be much more likely to stick to a set of positive habits and maintain positive mental health if you exist in the golden zone of meaning. Set an objective using the skills that you're good at, right at the edge of your ability so that you're forced to learn and improve, but not so challenging that it scares you back into your shell. If it's too easy, pick a bigger challenge. If it's completely overwhelming, maybe pick something a little bit more manageable. Adjusting this to perfection is one of the keys to not only forming passion and reliable positive habits, it's also one of the keys to greater happiness and fulfillment. Of all the things on this list, this may very well be the best thing to do for overall development in your life. So, let's summarize what we've learned today. To get your shit together and to make your life 38 times better in a year, you must first understand the 1% rule and the law of compound gains. You must understand that the law is always working either for you or against you, no matter what you do. Make the decision to force it to work in your favor by committing to tiny daily positive action. Second, to perform this daily positive action, remember to focus on creating habits and not motivation, because habits will keep you in line consistently while motivation will almost always let you down. Then, establish these habits by creating systems to eliminate your points of failure. Minimize your points of failure further still skill by applying implementation intention. For implementation intention to work as intended, you must find what you are doing meaningful and worthwhile. So ensure to position yourself and your goals in the golden zone of meaning, right at the precipice between too challenging and too comfortable. Do all these things and I promise you, you will see significant positive change in your life. Now, I want you all to leave a comment down below on your favorite point and share why. Maybe you applied one of them before and it's already changed your life. We'd all love to hear about it. Let's spread positivity and encourage each other to become the best versions of ourselves through the power of incremental gains. That's all from me for now, guys. Be sure to check out one of the links on screen to keep watching more factful content, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.